In case you missed it, here's Dave and Cheryl's favorite moments of the week. And now it's time for...
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's random.
Is that a fact?
Is that a fact?
4 random facts.
I don't know if I can get through this one. There's a town in Oklahoma. It's named Hooker, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And its slogan is, "It's a location, not a vocation." That is fantastic marketing. It's a location, not a vocation.
Love it. Hey, do you know that Smokey the Bear's official name is just Smokey Bear? There's no the.
Sounds weird.
Only you can prevent forest fires, Dave.
Yeah, thanks to Smokey the Bear. Hey, there's a difference between a moonroof and a sunroof. Sunroofs open up all the way. Moonroofs don't.
They only go like halfway or something?
So I guess I have a moonroof. It opens, but like not the whole way back, the whole view. I just call it sunroof because I'm never out and opening it up to look at the moon.
I feel like, yeah. No, and then the mosquitoes come in. You're like, get out of here. And finally, I know a lot of people get upset when there's Amber Alerts, but Amber Alerts are actually named after a 9-year-old girl who was kidnapped in Texas in 1996 named Amber. However, AMBER, A-M-B-E-R, was turned into an acronym meaning America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response.
Now you know. There's your 4 random facts.
Today's
1, 2, 3,
4
Fuck! So random.
random.
Give the public the facts.
4 random facts.
Yum. Science.
It's not rocket science. Check it out. I blinded us with science.
Well, could this be the end of gray hair?
Apparently, Columbia University has released the first published study that shows natural repigmentation. So they were able to identify 323 proteins that indicate hair color. Then they selected gray and colored hairs from 14 participants who ranked the stress in their lives. And while we already know stress can cause hair to go gray, the study suggests the reverse is true. Relaxing or de-stressing events can bring color back.
Isn't that interesting?
So I guess you just need to retire and the gray hair will slow down.
But then it all falls out. So, hey, a piece of an old rocket crashed into the moon back in March, and NASA just released a photo of the double crater it made. They think it was a Chinese-made rocket launched in 2014, but they haven't admitted to it yet.
Of course not. Hey, in other space news, NASA says we have to dig a lot deeper to find potential signs of ancient life on Mars. They say maybe 6 or even 7 feet down. And that's because radiation has destroyed pretty much everything above that. Now, the next rover they send might be able to dig that deep, but so far the deepest we've gone is 2.8 inches.
Barely scratching the surface, literally.
Literally.
Hey, a new study just came out, and it's the first to prove that being hangry is really a thing.
So for 3 weeks, 64 people used an app to track their emotions and how hungry they felt. And then it showed that not eating really does make us mad.
I agree with that. When people were craving food, they were 34% angrier and 37% more irritable. They also took a lot longer to do, they took 38% less pleasure in whatever they happened to be doing at the time. First study to look at how being hangry affects us in the real world.
So the team behind it says it's really important then to avoid these situations because your hunger won't necessarily go away once you eat. It takes a little bit of time.
Isn't that wild?
And it could even leave you in a rut for maybe a couple days or even weeks. So just showing how important it is to stay fueled.
Now, do you ever feel like you get hangry?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But does it affect you for days?
No,
I noticed it.
But sometimes I'll feel terrible because I just start eating like everything in sight. And then you like end up overeating.
Yeah, and things maybe you don't want to eat. That's the last week in science. So I know you work out a lot. I know you're really into exercise. You exercise almost just about every day, it seems like.
I mean, I'm walking my dog for at least 45 minutes a day. The joys of owning a husky, you know, I just try to get him as exhausted as possible so that he sleeps when I want to take a nap.
I think for a lot of people, though, it's the weekends, right? Or your days off, whenever that might be, where you're like, okay, I'm going to go for, you know, a really long walk or a run or go to the gym. And science says that's not a bad thing to do.
Yeah, apparently this new study says exercising only on weekends can actually boost your health just as much as working out every day. So experts recommend that you get at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous exercise if you're between the ages of 18 and 64. This is the benchmark to be considered an active adult. And active adults less likely to die from things like cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, and other diseases compared to someone who is not as active.
So if you're looking at those numbers, you could hit those targets with a brisk 30-minute walk 5 days a week, like what you're talking about with your dog, or a more intense hour and, say, 15-minute run once a week. There wasn't a big difference in the rates for active adults, whether they did exercising throughout the week or crammed it all in on the weekend.
So this is fantastic news for people who say you have kids, so maybe working out on the weekend is a little bit more attainable for you than trying to fit in a workout maybe at night after the kids go to bed or early in the morning before they get up.
Yeah, don't feel guilty if you've got to bring them to, dance class, soccer, and these things, and you're standing around thinking, man, I should be doing something, as long as you're able to get a little bit active on your days off.
Yeah, so Saturday and Sunday, if you can get to work in both those days, should be good to go.
Well, we've got a couple of law and disorder stories for you this morning. This first one, I'm assuming this person thought, well, if I'm going to park my car anywhere, it'd be safe right here. Not so much.
No, that's not the case. Well, a 21-year-old man in Nevada by the name of Aiden was released from jail on Saturday. He had been arrested the day before for stealing a vehicle. And I guess they held him overnight. He got released on bail, but he didn't have a ride home when they released him, so he thought it'd be a great idea to just steal a car from the parking lot of the jail. Apparently, they caught him in the parking lot inside a vehicle that did not belong to him, so of course he was arrested again. The sheriff is now reminding citizens, you might want to lock the doors on your vehicle when you're not there, even if you are in a jail parking lot.
Although you've got to figure, okay, I'm in a jail parking lot. The criminals are inside. There's guards. There's probably video cameras. That still didn't stop this guy from trying to steal that car. Hey, this is a wild story. A 25-year-old guy in Brooklyn got pulled over for not wearing a seatbelt last week. And instead of just taking the ticket, he decided to run. He threw his car door open, hit an officer with it, took off. Well, he started getting chased on foot. But they had to stop and just watch after he scaled a huge pole, like about 30 feet in the air, and climbed onto a subway platform.
Is this like an action movie, or actually watching Jason Bourne or something going on?
Well, that's where it got really wild, because he decided his best chance to get away was jumping from the platform onto a nearby building. And it wasn't an easy jump. He had to make 10 or 15 feet not to hit the sidewalk. Well, someone got it on video, and people on the ground were telling him, don't do it.
Don't do it, man. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Bro, I got you.
Well, as you can hear them going, whoa, he actually went for it anyway, landed it. But after all that, he got arrested anyway.
It sounds like he hurt his leg when he hit the roof, so he couldn't run anymore. And he ended up getting caught, so.
Isn't that wild?
I still just can't get over it. Like, clearly there must have been a warrant out for his arrest or something else. Because why else?
Something in the vehicle, maybe.
Yeah, why else would you run for just a seatbelt violation?
Sometimes you see this in the animal world where one creature will, help to take care of another species' animals.
And in this case, it was a dog taking care of 15 ducklings. A Labrador by the name of Fred is the dog of the house in the Mount Fittich Castle near Essex, and is also the proud new foster father. Apparently, the ducklings' mother disappeared overnight, so the owner of the castle said Fred has taken over care of them. 15 ducklings, to be exact. And the owner of Fred and the castle says he'll probably take care of them until they're old enough to survive on their own. And this isn't the first time he's done it. Back in 2018, apparently he raised 9 ducklings.
So he's got experience.
He's a great foster dad. Decided he liked it so much he's going to do it again.
Experienced babysitter needed. So yeah, you got it covered. A county in Florida is under quarantine, but not for the reason you might think. It's not due to COVID. It's because of snails.
Snails?
A population of invasive giant African land snails that can produce up to 2,500 eggs a year has invaded this spot in Florida. Now, the invasive species poses a health risk to humans because they carry a parasite called rat lungworm.
That doesn't sound good.
It can cause meningitis. And although the snails are illegal to own as pets in the U.S., some exotic pet owners still keep them anyway.
Well, can you get them fixed so that they don't lay the eggs?
I don't even want to mess around with that. I don't want to get near it when it can cause meningitis. No, just get rid of them.
And how about this? Whenever there's a truck crash and, they spill their cargo, it's a long cleanup, right? It's pretty disastrous. But how about if that transport truck is moving 200 active beehives? That's what happened on a highway out in Utah. 2 people were in the truck. Neither of them seriously injured in the crash itself, though. But then the bees arrived, and there were thousands of them, maybe even more.
This time of the year, we often see semi-trucks traveling down the highway with hundreds of hives on them, and it almost always goes without fail. It's sad to see, but it does happen. We've been slowly going through the hives, looking to see what's been damaged, what hasn't, and unfortunately, more is damaged than not.
Every bee counts. You want to rush up and see if you can help.
So 2 people had to be treated at the hospital for multiple bee stings. Several first responders also got stung, but thankfully no one was seriously hurt from that.
And if you're wondering, why are they transporting beehives? A lot of times farmers who have like orchards or wineries, they need the bees to come in and pollinate the fruit trees. And as a result, they, instead of having their own bees, they hire companies that bring them in. And usually they have no problem moving them around to do the pollinating, but when one of them crashes...
And the whole thing caused the highway to be closed for multiple hours because first responders couldn't do anything. They had to wait for the beekeepers to get there.
Yeah, and then the beekeepers, they have the knowledge and the equipment and to be able to sort of get them all corralled again where they need to be.
It's French Fry Day today.
And according to a new survey, regular fries are our favorite type of fries. Curly fries are a close second, though. Yeah, big shout out to Arby's on that one. Steak cut fries were next, then crinkle cut, waffle fries, and wedges.
Kids really like crinkle cut, I think. There's something just about the shape of them.
It's just fun.
I like those shoestring fries.
Oh, those can be really good, too.
Our favorite things to dip fries in, far and away ketchup, number 1, followed by ranch, cheese sauce, barbecue sauce, and mayo.
I think I'll just stick with ketchup. And finally, a New York restaurant's $200 plate of French fries, certified as the world's most expensive by Guinness, are returning today. So Serendipity earned the record when the chefs cooked up the fancy potatoes into French fries, served it with Dom Perignon champagne, cage-free goose fat from France, truffle salt, truffle oil, a very special pecorino cheese, shaved black summer truffles from Italy, truffle butter, organic grass-fed cream from Jersey cows, Gruyere truffled Swiss raclette. It's like cheese is what it is. And a topping of 24-karat edible gold dust.
Well, is it really, fancy fries if you're not eating gold dust on top? Now, if you're eating the gold dust on top, do you still dip them in ketchup? Or will you be seen as very pedestrian?
Do you get only the Dijon ketchup?
All the fanciest ones. Happy French Fry Day. I guarantee that we all have something that's sitting around either on a shelf somewhere, maybe in the basement or perhaps in the garage, that you just can't bring yourself to throwing away.
Yes, gadgets is what we're talking about specifically. These common gadgets that you never really use anymore, but probably because you spend so much money on them, they're hard to part with.
Or you might use them every once in a while. They surveyed over 2,000 people, and here's the top 10. In at number 10, old tablet devices. They're one of the things we keep even after we upgrade. There's other things that didn't make the top 10, like e-readers, camcorders, MP3 players. Do you still have one?
I still have my old iPod, my actual physical iPod.
Yeah, I still have an MP3 player that I used for running for the longest time. But they also mentioned record players in here, but record players kind of came back in vogue the last few years.
Mm-hmm. But if you have one that you don't necessarily use, or maybe the needle's broken, you're not sure how to repair it, that could be something. In at number 9 on this list of unused gadgets we just can't bring ourselves to throw away, old gaming consoles. Like, even though you have the newest PlayStation, you still have the 3 kicking around.
Also, things like printers. Most people have them, but probably don't use them very often unless you're working from home.
I had one, and I finally got rid of it. I dropped it off. It was a good printer, and I think that's why I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But then I would never go and buy the ink. And if I did need to print something, which is only maybe a couple times a year, I just do it here at work.
Headphones or old earbuds also making the list. Because you just have them sitting in a drawer.
Even though one of them doesn't work anymore.
You're like,
the
well,
one ear works, but the other one doesn't. CD players. A lot of times now, if you listen to a CD, it's probably in your car, unless you're like me. I don't have a CD player in my car anymore.
No, mine doesn't have one.
I went to
either
go
when
put
you
it
were
in.
in.
I was like, what's happening?
Old laptops. If you're still holding on to yours, it's probably because you never transferred stuff from your hard drive, and now you're like, wow, there's stuff on there.
Or you can't figure out how to wipe it.
And you can't figure out how to get rid of it.
Well, you said you have one, but you can't log into it anymore.
No,
So how do you wipe it?
yeah, how do you wipe that in that case?
I'm going to take a giant magnet to it, I guess.
A drill? I've watched some movies where they do that. They take drills to the
That
hard
would work
drives.
too. Another common gadget that we won't throw away, old TVs. Especially if they still work, but now you've kind of switched over to flat screens everywhere.
Yeah, because the old TVs, they weigh about 500 pounds, it feels like, some of them. Made out of cast iron.
I remember my dad and I loading up. I had one at my house that was literally like the piece of furniture where you had to get up and turn the knob to change the channel.
But even, and those were furniture because they had the cabinets around them. But even the other ones, the first big screen TVs that came out, those were heavy. They'd sit on that table, and after a while, you're like, what's that noise? Oh, it's just a table cracking. Digital cameras. So many of us have them. I know for sure we have one in a drawer. It's a waterproof one, too, because we took it on vacation one time. Never use it anymore.
But now, because the camera on your cell phone is surpassed it now. Also, old phones. Yep, I still have a couple kicking around. I think I could probably finally recycle a few of them. I still use my old phone. I still use sometimes, though, and I kind of keep it as a backup in case something ever happens with my actual phone that I have now.
I think that's why a lot of us hold on to some of those older phones. And they're not cheap either.
Exactly. And then finally, the most common gadget that we don't use that we also can't bring ourselves to throw away, DVD players.
Yeah, once in a while, when the kids were here, I threw on a DVD of an older movie.
Well, with the Rogers outage last Friday, how else would you have entertained the kids, right? No internet. Now it's like the 90s. Here's a VHS tape, guys.
Yeah, let's try and figure out how that works. Do we even have a VHS player around anymore? Flying right now for many people around the world, it's a challenge. I mean, flights being canceled. You've got issues when it comes to baggage. The bags are just sitting there, tons of them inside the airport and in the rooms and stuff. And then now you've got some maintenance things coming up. There was a plane that caught fire that we played that clip for you yesterday in Atlanta. And now this.
An Emirates flight out of Dubai landed in Australia last week, even though there was a huge hole in the side of the plane. Apparently got punched out in the middle of the flight. It was an Airbus 380, which is actually the largest passenger plane in the world. And the hole looked like it was about 3 or 4 feet wide. Now, apparently there was a big bang shortly after takeoff. Big enough that even the flight attendants were kind of freaked out about it. But the pilot said no alarms went off. Everything was fine. All the, the tools and measurements were saying they were good to go. So they continued on. So the flight was about 14 hours. So since it happened about 45 minutes in, they did most of the flight over ocean flying like this. And then when they landed, saw this giant hole in the plane.
Over the ocean for all those hours with a 3 to 4 foot hole in the side of it.
So they think that they blew a tire on takeoff. And then because it was kind of underneath, they didn't see the hole until they landed. And it makes me think, too, that it must have just been the outside part. And so then it was still, it was still pressurized, the plane, while they were flying, which is why then nothing never happened. And it wasn't near an engine, so it was okay.
Well, they were lucky, right? Because the tire blew and it knocked out some big bolts, and they think that's what really caused the hole, but not in a critical area, thankfully.
So maybe just luggage was falling out of the plane?
Can you imagine? Where's my luggage? Well, it's not in the airport. We have no idea where it is.
You start checking, you put an AirTag in there. You start checking, you're like, oh, it says this is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Great.
And now it's time to put some good in your morning. The good news brought to you by Almar Home Improvements. 519-351-5666.
Today's good news is all about a story of people coming together to help out an 8-year-old girl.
So down in Memphis, a little girl by the name of Charlotte lost her mom to cancer back in April. And she just turned 8 last week. So her older sister, who is, now the one that takes care of her and is her guardian, wanted to throw her a big party. So she sent out invitations to all of her classmates. Only one kid from school RSVP'd yes. So the older sister, Chloe, she's in her late 20s. So she jumped on social media to kind of vent about it. And she actually broke down in tears. But the video went viral and a lot of people reached out wanting to help. They held the party less than a week later, and so many families showed up. The entire yard
was full of people and surprises.
Two incredibly sweet women, Taylor and Abby, came and basically single-handedly decorated the entire house for Charlotte. And Cindy assembled and completely decorated all of the balloons. She was absolutely blown away. They changed my life. It changed my sister's life, and it is the least lonely this Nani and her Lilo have felt in a long time. This is the power and the good side of the internet.
So the party ended up having a pool, a water slide, a reptile show, pony rides, a wall of balloons, as you heard. And there was a line of cars up and down the street because people were showing up just to drop off presents for her. They didn't want to stick around and take up space, but they wanted to drop off gifts for her. And then they've been getting cards from people all around the world wishing her a happy birthday.
She's a huge fan of Jeeps. She likes Jeeps. So there was like a parade of Jeeps that showed up, and someone, I think a local dealership, dropped her off a miniature, like little Jeep.
Like a little Power Wheels one?
Well, I don't want one you ride in, but one you can, like a remote control kind of thing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it turned into a great day out of what was a terrible, awful situation. As in the original video, Chloe talked about, my mom should be the one here doing this. And, I'm trying to put things together, and she was getting frustrated trying to make this balloon thing, and it wasn't working for her. And that's when she was explaining everything going on. And all these people, got together. As she said, the good side of the internet showed itself.
You've been listening to Dave and Cheryl's favorite moments of the week.